Bleach was my favorite shonen series. I know what you're thinking. You're like, whoa, you're supposed to say Naruto. You're supposed to say Attack on Titan. You're supposed to say other things. But honestly, growing up, Bleach was my favorite shonen series. And yes, I know how it ends. You don't need to ask me that. The art style, the fashion, the characters, the poetry. I mean, this author could have been the next Edgar Allan Poe, but he decided to spare us all and allow somebody else to do that. The plot, I loved it all. Since then, I've watched so many different anime series and plenty of manga, some of which make me well up with the same level of excitement I had when I was 13 years old and I was reading Bleach for the first time. And Naruto. I'll throw in Naruto for y'all. Since their conclusions, I feel like Shonen Jump has tried to find the next Naruto and the next Bleach, and I think they've actually succeeded. Now, when I say the next Naruto, the next Bleach, I'm not talking about their carbon copies, but I'm talking about series that give off the same level of energy, you know what I mean? And for Naruto, I would say that, in my opinion, it would be Black Clover. Admittedly, I have not watched a ton of Black Clover. I've only watched the first 7 episodes, and that's all I needed to say, like, oh, this is like the magical Naruto. It just felt real Naruto-like. And I know that the series is supposed to get much better later on. I will devote my time to watching it at some point. But anyway, besides that, I think for Bleach, the offspring of Bleach was Jujutsu Kaisen. And I remember reading somewhere that the author actually said she was influenced by Bleach. And I felt like so vindicated. I felt so freaking happy. I was like, Bleach is so underrated. People always make it seem like Bleach was a failure. No, just because you don't like the last couple arcs does not mean the whole series holistically was garbage. It was great. And that's what actually influenced me to do this whole entire video. I wanted to discuss the various parallels between Bleach and Jujutsu Kaisen and why I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen is doing a wonderful job, not only making a space for itself within the shonen sphere, but also paying homage to Bleach. Okay, so let's start with the similarities between Ichigo and Yuji. Yuji and Ichigo were similar in that they were very athletic. They were always really strong from the beginning, even before being bestowed some crazy ass power. They were always really, really strong and just above average physique. And then when it comes to their moral compass, they both have unique morals, but they don't seek to impose it on others. Instead, they seek to understand the other side and recognize its validity. And this is something I noticed in Yuji recently. I would say episode 5 or 6. I don't want to spoil anything for someone, but I remember Yuji was having a discussion with Fushiguro about, I would say, death, or about what's motivating them while they are in their Jujutsu sorcerer careers. And even though Yuji had a different take on what he wanted to accomplish during his time at Jujutsu Tech, he also acknowledged the validity in Fushiguro's goals, and he complimented it. And you know, I think he recognized that they both can be right and coexist at the same time. And I feel like that's very similar to Ichigo, because Ichigo, he was never like that type of character that tried, in my opinion, I didn't feel like Ichigo tried to impose his own moral compass onto other people. He just had his own way of viewing things, and yes, he would be like it's my way or the highway in some regards. Like, he's not gonna let his friend die, and I think that would go no matter what. But he also sought to understand where his foes were coming from. And there can be an argument that says that Ichigo never really saw anyone as a straight up foe. He just saw them as someone he had to defeat in order to get to his goal, but he didn't have any personal feelings invested in that individual. He never had like animosity towards them. I remember for Aizen, after his fight with him, he really sought to understand why he even did all this to begin with, and I thought that was really indicative of his character, and it's something I see present itself in Yuji, especially when he had that conversation with Fushiguro. And then there's the duality aspect, right? Ichigo and Yuji both share bodies with a separate and more powerful entity. So for Ichigo, it was his hollow, and for Fushiguro, and I said Fushiguro, for Yuji, it's Sukuna. And I'm gonna get into the similarities between Sukuna and Ichigo's hollow later on, but that's another way that they're similar. Their start, both accept new powers in order to protect people close to them. Yuji, when he first gets his power, he does it in order to protect Fushiguro. He eats the finger because he's afraid Fushiguro is going to be taken out by this curse. And that's very similar to how Ichigo first got his powers. He takes Rukia's Soul Reaper powers because he wants to protect his sisters. And that's another way in which they're similar even from the very beginning, first episode. Another similarity that they have is their goals. So the job of the Soul Reaper, once Ichigo gets his Soul Reaper powers, he continues to work in Rukia's place and fulfill Rukia's job in her place while they figure things out. And the job of the Soul Reaper is to help lingering spirits move on and pass on peacefully before they become hollows. And when they become hollows, they are supposed to dispose of them, which is very similar to Yuji's goals, which is to help people find a very proper death. And there's just a lot of similarities in that regard, and I think that's another way in which the author might have been really influenced by Bleach. Motivations. So Ichigo wants to become stronger so that no one has to die to protect him like his mother did. And Yuji is motivated by his grandfather's words before his death to help as many people as he can. So they're both motivated by somebody close to them that passed away and it left them with a purpose in life almost. And to go back to the duality part that I was speaking about, their relationship with their other darker side, Ichigo initially fears his hollow and refuses to allow him to surface because he doesn't think he can control him, while Yuji, on the other hand, doesn't seem to fear Sukuna, and he can usually dictate when and where he will allow him to surface, which is very interesting. But I think that it does play into like similarities, even if they are different, even if their take is different. And I think in some respects, Yuji does fear Sukuna because Sukuna tells him like, yo, if you try to make me come up right now, I'm actually gonna kill your friend. So like, don't do that. Which is very different from Ichigo and his hollow. I feel like, and this is gonna just segment into Sukuna versus Ichigo's hollow, in that like Ichigo's hollow, he wants dominance, right? That's the similarity between Ichigo's hollow and Sukuna. They both want to dominate their host. They're like, they want to be, it's kind of like the king versus the horse dynamic that's painted in Bleach. The hollow wants to be the horseman, and he's like, if you slip up at any moment, I'm gonna take advantage and you're gonna become the horse and I'm gonna become the king one day. And Sukuna has, that very same energy. Sukuna does want to become the dominant part of the vessel. He's just chilling out, and it's really hard to assess what he wants, what his goal is. So it's hard to say like whether or not he's also waiting for Yuji to get caught off guard and then to take his vessel. But I think they both seek that dominance at the end of the day. The difference is that Ichigo's hollow will not allow him to take an L. Once Ichigo is about to get defeated, his hollow's like, nah, because if you take an L, I take an L. If you die, I die. And so we're a package deal. I'm not about to let you die on us. Let me take over. This is how you do a bankai, right? And then Sukuna on the other side, he's like, hold your L. I have nothing to do with this. He's very much like, you have to hold your L. I am not your servant or your lackey. If you're gonna lose, you're gonna lose on your own regards. I ain't helping you. So those are the differences between Ichigo, Hollow, and Sukuna. One is like, we're not taking L's no matter what, even if I have to dominate you. And Sukuna's like, you gonna have to get stronger individually. I ain't bailing you out of anything. If we gonna take an L, you gonna hold your L. It's not gonna be my L, but it's gonna be your L. That brings me to another thing that I found to be like a similarity between Ichigo and Yuji. It's the people who offer them the power or offer them insight on how to tap into that power that I found to be a parallel between Bleach and Jujutsu Kaisen. One being Fushiguro and Rukia. Rukia and Fushiguro have a lot of commonalities, and I thought that was really interesting too. So one of them is that they both introduce the protagonist to the other world or society, right? Fushiguro introduces Yuji to Jujutsu tech. He introduces him to Jujutsu in general, so sorcery in general, curses and all that stuff. He pretty much exposes him to that world when he pursues Sukuna's finger in the beginning, and he explains why it's so important for him to acquire it. And Rukia introduces Ichigo into the Soul Reaper world and Soul Reaper society by giving her his power and basically training him on how to take down hollows. Another similarity between Rukia and Fushiguro is that they both introduce Ichigo and Yuji to their power potential that can potentially kill them if done wrong. So Fushiguro is the one who told Yuji about the fact that he could eat the finger in order to acquire cursed energy and potentially take down the curse that they were encountering. He says it almost like matter-of-factly. He doesn't think that Yuji's gonna take him up on that offer, but like he still is the one who gives Yuji his initial knowledge. And once Yuji eats the finger, he's kind of freaked out because he's like, there's a 1 in a million chance they can survive, but like chances are more than not he's going to die from this. And it's very similar to Rukia and Ichigo. I think there were some risk involved to Ichigo taking her power. She was just like, I don't know if this is going to work, this might backfire, but let's try it out anyway if you want to save your sisters. And it ends up working out. So they both introduced Yuji and Ichigo to the power in addition to the other world. Another one, they recognize the protagonist's unique abilities. So both Fushiguro and Rukia recognize that Ichigo and Yuji are like very athletic, very have like strong abilities, very fast or strong. And I remember when Ichigo took Rukia's Soul Reaper power and his sword was mad like large, she's just like, where does he have all this like spiritual energy? So she recognizes that he is really unique. And the same thing happened with Fushiguro when he was trying to, pursue Yuji to get the finger back from him. He's like, this guy's kind of fast. And he's just like, did this guy just jump 2 floors, break into this window, save his friends? Like, this man is kind of wild. So he recognizes his unique abilities too. And I think those are 2 similarities between Rukia and Fushiguro. And another similarity is that they become the hero's closest ally between both worlds. So this has a lot more to do with what happens after the main character gets their powers. So when Rukia, and this happens later for Rukia than Fushiguro. So like when Rukia really advocates for Ichigo when Byakuya and Renji come down to get her, come down to the real world to retrieve her, she basically begs for them to spare Ichigo's life because she's the one who decided to give him her power. So it's really on her. So she advocates for him, and she also like is the portal to the other world kind of. And then the same thing happens for Yuji and Fushiguro. Fushiguro explains to Gojo when he arrives that, hey, Yuji just ate his finger. I really don't want him to die. I want him to live at any means. When Gojo asks him what he wants to do with him, he says, I want him to live. So they both serve that same purpose where they become the hero's closest ally and advocate on their behalf in order to get their life spared after they gain power. So the last point I want to talk about in terms of similarities between Bleach and Jujutsu Kaisen is their power systems, and just their power systems. So first and foremost, the hollows versus the curses. Hollows are previous human spirits with unresolved feelings and have not passed on in time. Curses are born of human malice or sentiment. The ones Mahito can create are from humans. Mahito can transform humans into curses, so those are some similarities between the two. Both are attached or attracted to those with high spiritual energy, and both Ichigo and Yuji are taken aback once they find out that these forces were previously human beings. And another thing, it goes back to the Soul Reaper versus the Jujutsu Sorcerer. Both are spirit-based. And even when you go to the Bankai versus the Domain, I feel like an argument can be made that they're similar because one must trump the other in order for the fighter or the person fighting the protagonist to prevail. So anyway, I hope this was a really interesting video. Those are the similarities that I wanted to discuss about Jujutsu Kaisen and Bleach. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is To Anime and Beyond. I have so much more to cover, so many more videos coming up, so definitely subscribe. I would really appreciate it. Like, share, comment if you have really insightful feedback. I'm totally interested. But until then, I'll catch you later. Bye.